I want to take my 4-year-old to court after how she did me over the weekend. She kneed me in the upper lip so hard, I felt like I got punched in the nose still. Like my nose is tender, like I was in a prize fight over the weekend. I don't know, is that my own negligence for how I've raised her and not kept her accountable? I've been trying for the better part of the last year to get her to stop kicking my ass, basically, and she won't stop. This was a devastating Muay Thai knee. I think that's how you say that.
Yeah.
Just wham. She wanted me to go get donuts. And I was like, yes, we are going to get donuts.
But you weren't moving fast enough, were you?
No, I think I had stopped and I was watching TV or whatever. This was like 8:45 in the morning. I'm groggy. I'm like, just give me a minute. We're going to get the donuts. And she dropped the hammer. Anyway, as I mentioned, sorry, I didn't mean to bury this. But I felt it was newsworthy because every time I talk, I can feel the sensitivity in my face.
No.
Yeah.
Sounds like she's got a bright future in ass kicking.
She better.
That's kind of cool.
Learn some MMA, Muay Thai.
There better be a payoff to this because I am the tackling dummy or the karate dummy. Okay, or just dummy in general. I don't know. But the Cowboys did interview Aaron Whitecotton. Morning News says this could be the intrigue for why would you be interested for a guy that was part of such a crappy defense, right? We've talked about that. They say he's perhaps the only potential in-house candidate because he's one of the only assistants not tied to Eberflus. He coached the defensive line after spending 4 years with the Jets. This feels like a long shot, though, considering he's never been a DC, but it would be interesting. Might be a respect, kind of thing. He'd been around people like him. But, hey, you liked him, so maybe he is a serious candidate. It's hard to say. Like, last year around this time when we first started hearing about Shoddy, it was like, no, they're just, doing him a solid. This isn't a real candidate, is it? And then the more we found out, the more we liked about it. You also have the former Arizona Cardinals head coach, Jonathan Gannon, as he's going to have an interview. And Zach Orr was DC with the Ravens, right?
Yes. And he was with Shoddy. They've got crossover from their time in Jacksonville together. So, and of course, DeSoto, North Texas Mean Green legend. The last 2 years, it's been a little bit of a struggle there in Baltimore, but he is very, very well respected and definitely as a position coach. The other two names, I know Nick Harris threw out the possibility of Chuck Pagano interviewing, which is, look, he's a long-time guy that's had tons of success as a defensive coordinator, was a head coach with Indy from 2012 to 2017. It's just wild because his last stint as defensive coordinator was with the Bears, and that ended in 2020, and then he was out of the league. He was doing stuff with Pat McAfee until this year.
Who hired him back? Somebody hired him back.
Baltimore. Yeah, so this past year he was the senior defensive assistant secondary coach with the Ravens. So he was out of the league from 2020 to 2025, kind of doing that Phillip Rivers thing. We're like, all right, let's give Homek another shot here. So maybe Pagano, and I know Bobby had mentioned the name. Sean said this morning, Jonathan Cooley, the Panthers secondary or passing game coordinator, and he's got a resume going back with the Rams. He was there for 3 years, was part of that coaching staff that won a Super Bowl there, and then has done excellent work with the Panthers. I mean, we mentioned Mike Jackson during Crosstalk, who was with the Seahawks.
Panthers or Jacksonville?
He's currently with the Panthers.
Oh, with the Panthers.
With the Panthers, yeah. Jonathan Cooley. So those are another two names that could possibly get added to the list.
All right. Looking forward to learning more about these guys as this interview process continues. And, with Zach Orr, I would say the Ravens just got hurt, and then they didn't have any edges or good corners by the end of the year. Jair Alexander kind of just didn't work out for him. Cheeto Awuzie was good at times, but he, got cooked on that game ender. And then they could not rush the passer at all. Like, it was shocking how unhurried Aaron Rodgers was Sunday night, to allow the Steelers to get enough points to end up winning that game. Like, he has been on the run and rattled and seeing ghosts the majority of the season, which is why he barely threw for 3,300 yards or whatever it was. But he was quite comfortable back there and made the Ravens pay for it. Hey, congrats to George Pickens, Brandon Aubrey, and Kevontae Turpin for being named to the NFL All-Pro second team. That's, a chance to re-engage in this conversation with George. Obviously, congrats to him. A breakout year where you're heading for, yes, I am going to get more money than I'll ever know what to do with. We have generational wealth, but now it's like you can imagine the top of the money. You know, you could imagine making $200 or $300 million here over the next 4 to 5 years if you were George Pickens now, based on the way that you have played. From that, yeah, he could be a second wide receiver to bona fide one of the top 5 or 6 in the game right now. And congrats to the Cowboys as well. Just an absolute dream of a trade. I don't know if they're net ahead after everything that they've done in the trade department. Like, they don't have very many hits over recent years, like a 4 for Jonathan Mingo, but just a 3 for George Pickens. One of the great trades in DFW sports history.
Absolutely. They crushed it with that one, man. The 2 big swings that they had that they definitely hit home runs on were Javonte Williams and the trade for Pickens.
Okay, then of course you can talk about Aubrey, one of the top kickers. Cavante Turpin, I don't know. Like, I guess he had the most yardage, but that's because they were constantly getting scored on.
Yeah.
Of course, he broke the Cowboys' record for most return yardage in team history.
He got the volume. He's a volume shooter of kickoff return specialist.
Yeah. But
I've never seen a fan base get so mad that one of their players was an All-Pro, but it happened, and I get it. Not
the Turpin uprising. It's really started, and I can't say that I disagree. I wanted more from Turpin, and there's times where it seems like he's leaving a little meat on that bone.
Do you think he'll do the fake fair catch in the flag football?
And nobody's better at just, hey, let me let this thing hit at the 10 and just roll down to the 2 or the 1 yard line for you, so you can just have the worst field position in the league.
I'm seeing a lot of weird punt returners doing stuff.
What are we doing? Are we like just not coaching these guys anymore? Or are they just like crapping their pants in the moment? They see the ball come and it's like, oh no, what do I do? Brain fart. I just go into a fog.
That was bad. That was a coachable moment right there. But I mean, overall, I like having Turpin on the team. I think what Brian said is interesting, that now he's more involved in the offense.
Yeah.
I'm sliding him back to just a special teams player and making way for the emergence of Flanoy just a little bit more.
All for it, man. Focus on returning.
It was a great idea last year, and Shoddy gave it the best chance. They put him in the backfield early and often in training camp. Like, they gave him an opportunity to do everything. And you found that in an emergency, like having this guy as your 4th or 5th receiver, it's not the end of the world. And there were some routes in there. There were some plays down the sideline where he really, acquitted himself, but not enough to have him, be that much of a member of the offense. But I wanted to, really talk more about George Pickens and where this goes from here. Are they going to, for the first time in the Jones family ownership, pay 2 number 1 wide receivers? Like, this would be an unprecedented move. Is he so good that you just cannot let this guy go? And then how likely is another holdout? Because Jerry has shown he likes this. How many times has he done it with Dak and CeeDee Lamb and even Zach Martin and Micah Parsons, like we talked about? If this appears to be, and this idea actually picked up traction last year. So I've been thinking throughout the season, there's no way Jerry would subject us to this again. Like, do we always have to have the number 1 holdout? And I think if it's possible, it just seems so likely, because the Cowboys could tag him. But now that you make second team All-Pro, like, you got to claim for $35 million plus. That's like a 25% difference in what the Cowboys can keep you for and what your reasonable ask is.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're clearly trying to they're gonna try and play the tag game with him, and it's just hard to fathom that just goes super smooth. And maybe it doesn't matter because you get things done before training camp or whatever, but throughout the offseason, it's going to be a huge talking point because, I just don't imagine that him and the agent are going to be comfortable playing on that number, so there's going to be some type of fight going on. Now, maybe they're comfortable with tagging him and letting him go ahead and peruse the market and see if another team's willing to give him the fatty boomba and give up picks for it, and the Cowboys will probably be fine with that. I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I would be fine with it as well. I wonder how the Cowboys look at it because, I mean, he's very marketing friendly. I would imagine.
Yeah,
like
Pickens
the star
jerseys.
player, the Pickens
absolutely.
jerseys. There's so much that makes sense and checks every box from a Cowboys perspective. I think this comes down to how Pickens is going to take that. And some guys look at it like franchise tag. That's awesome. Other guys would look at it like that's not enough. I think for the first round picks that have already accumulated a very significant amount of money by the time they get there, they have the security from with to negotiate upon. But if you're a second round pick, you're coming here and like $28 million is 2.5 times what you've made at this point up into your career. Maybe it might even be a bigger multiplier than what it is. But whatever the case, George Pickens is about to get paid. And he seemed very nonchalant about it when we asked him about it in training camp. Like, would you want to be a long-term member of the Cowboys? Would you want to start negotiating a contract now? And he actually said, you're going to get paid no matter where you are. So he might have less of a desire to get in there and like intensely manage it, and he's just looking at it like the money's going to come when the money comes because I don't get that hurt, and obviously I'm awesome. But I think I'd want to strike while the iron is hot right now. After the career has been what it is, 3 years of pretty good production, but they're talking about you like your wide receiver number 2, and then you're part of this offense that got you the ball for 1,400 yards and 9 or 10 touchdowns. I think now would be the time to lock in like long-term guarantees. How about for Aubrey here? All of his misses were over 50 yards, second team All-Pro. I'd be disappointed if I'm Aubrey in that. I need to be first teamer.
Yep.
But looking around the league, there's been a lot of missed kicks. I think you want to make sure that Aubrey is a Cowboy for life, or at least a Cowboy until something bad happens in his career, like Dan Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, look at Green Bay and Philly today. They're looking at their kicking situation and saying, did that cost us a chance to advance? With McManus and of course what's happened with Elliott this year, missed extra points. That's something that Dan Bailey doesn't. Or excuse, why do I do this? Brandon Aubrey. I went
Something
Dan
about
Bailey
Dan
again.
Bailey's burned into your brain.
I mean, he was fantastic, and then all of a sudden, you go to the Vikings. That was a shocking day when they cut him. But Brandon Aubrey is one of those guys. He's super reliable. I know at the end of the season, stuff kind of got a little wonky on him, but they asked him to do a lot, man. I mean, if it's like every 50-plus yard kick, go out there and make it. And for a while, he had us thinking he was Mr. Automatic.
Yeah. I mean, and yesterday comes just a week after Baltimore lost a trip on a chip shot. Atlanta might have been a playoff team if they would have had their kicker situation figured out. They had Dan Bailey, they'd have been in the playoffs.